And it is time. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my live stream. My name is Tyler Ramsbey, and whether you are joining this live as it happens, or maybe you're joining it after the fact, watching the YouTube video, either way, it is an honor for you to take the time and hang out with me. In today's stream, we are going to do some more cloud pen testing. Specifically, we're going to get hands-on with pen testing Azure and seeing different labs that we're able to do on the pwnlabs.io environment. Now, if you haven't checked out pwnlabs.io, would really encourage you to check it out. I'd recently discovered them just last week, and by far, I'm not just saying this, by far, out of all the lab platforms I've done, pwnlabs.io has the best labs, the most realistic labs, and the most affordable labs. All the labs I've done so far on stream have been completely free. I did get a premium subscription because I really do think it's worth it, and you should get a premium subscription as well. But today, we're going to continue to work through the free Azure labs. I want to knock all those out first, so you're welcome to join me as we work through those labs. Before we do that, though, we are going to go through something they just released today. I only skimmed it over myself a little bit, but I want to go through it together. And what they released is a step-by-step path to be a cloud engineer, which also goes hand in hand with being a cloud pen tester. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen, and I want to show you guys my sweet setup. If you were in my stream last week, you know that I ran into some issues because my personal computer here only has 16 gigs of RAM, which is normally fine for running one VM, but I was trying to run my Kali VM and trying to run my Windows VM and trying to run some other things, and all of it just about crashed. So I got creative. I'm running my Kali VM off of this personal computer, but I hosted a Windows VM with no work-related stuff on it on my work computer, which has 32 gigs of RAM, and I'm hosting that almost like its own separate Windows server, and so I'm RDP'd into that. So here is going to be our Windows attack machine. And like I said, I'm RDP'd into it, so I'm not hosting it right here on my personal computer. And this Windows machine itself has 16 gigs of RAM. So now we have a fast Windows machine and a fast Kali machine. And so we can pivot back and forth, and we can use Cherry Tree in our Kali machine to take notes. But before we dive into the hands-on labs, I want to go through this. And honestly, I want to read it in its entirety. It seems long, but it's not super long. But it's really excellent stuff. I know many of you watching this, you want to know, how do I get in the cloud? How do I become a cloud security engineer? And here's the thing. There's a lot of roadmaps for becoming a pen tester, doing web apps and network pen tests, but there really aren't many, if any, roadmaps for becoming a cloud engineer or a cloud pen tester. So pwnlabs.io put this together, just released it today. So before we dive into the hands-on labs, let's look at this together. I'll give you my reaction, give you some of my thoughts, some of my context as we dig into this. So cloud security engineer roadmap by Pwnlabs. So we have kind of a overall view of things. I'm going to skim it just a little bit, but I do want us to go through this slowly together because I do think it's excellent content. So welcome. This roadmap is intended to be a step-by-step path that I would take to become a cloud security engineer today if I was embarking on this exciting journey. I will keep this roadmap updated, so just know this is a living document, and I want to let you know I had the honor today of sitting down virtually, because he's over in London, but with Ian, who's the founder of Pwnlabs, was actually a former staff member at Hack the Box. He was one of the lead people, if I understand correctly, of many of the enterprise level cloud stuff on Hack the Box. So when you go to Pwnlabs, you see the high quality, you know where some of that background is coming from. But had the opportunity to sit down with him, and we actually are going to have an interview coming up in the near future, just to make the event for everything, where I'm going to sit down with Ian on live stream, and we're going to talk all about the Pwnlabs environment, how he came up with it, what the future plans are, and his background. But this is a living document, is what he told me. So let's just start by saying there is no one correct route to getting started in cybersecurity and cloud security. I love this, right? A lot of people say, hey, you have to follow this path. No, you don't. And that's the beautiful thing about IT, and the beautiful thing about cybersecurity, and the beautiful thing about pen testing. You don't have to work IT support before you're a pen tester. You don't have to do this before you're a pen tester. All of us have different journeys. All of us have different paths to get here. The roadmap has sections that provide individual guidance. So we have cloud engineer, security engineer, system admin, or software developer. So you kind of pick where am I starting from and where do I go from there. So we'll look over this real quick. The cloud security engineer roadmap. This aligns at a high level with the expected knowledge areas for a cloud security engineer and is intended for people who are new to cloud security and who aspire to perform a cloud security engineering role, which it's probably many of you watching this. To help you get started, we have a few things. Learn the foundations well. I think about TCM Security. They released, and they do it every year, they release an excellent kind of guide on how to become a pen tester. And Heath has this whole thing about a pyramid. And on the bottom of the pyramid is you build your foundations. Build, break, and fix in the cloud. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get hands-on in the Pwn Labs environment, and we're going to do that. Reinforce theoretical learning through practice, right? Practice makes perfect. And demonstrate continuous learning. It does not stop. So we have some information about Linux and containers. We'll just kind of skim through a little bit of this. As a cloud security engineer, we will frequently use a Linux command line to perform tasks due to its customizability and great support for cloud security and DevOps tooling. Ubuntu is a solid choice for Linux. It's actually what I run as my host OS on my work computer, given its ease of use and large community. Kali is also a good choice, of course. Focus on pen testing and security assessments. Our role will involve using scripts, all of that good stuff. And focus on one cloud. I think this is also key. If you focus on one cloud, it's kind of like a programming language. When you learn one cloud, so when you learn AWS, it's a lot easier to pivot to the other cloud technologies. Just like if you learn one programming language, it's a lot easier to pivot to other other programming languages. So migrating to the clouds, etc. If you're starting a company today, it's very likely that you will be cloud native from the beginning. Learning one cloud provider. Look, guys, I didn't even read this aspect of it, but clearly great minds think alike because that's the exact analogy I just used. Amazing. We have some cloud security principles. If you do anything like the AZ900, which is like the introductory Azure cert or the introductory AWS cert, or I also have the CCSP, which is Certified Cloud Security Professional, you go through some of this. But here's the big idea. You need to understand what you're responsible for and what the cloud provider is responsible for. And the big thing to highlight here is you as the customer, you're always responsible for customer data. A data breach happens, you are the one that is held responsible for those things. The cloud environment often provide a lot of infrastructure for you, but you still have to configure things properly. Another thing is defense in depth, right? That's general cybersecurity, having multiple things in place to stop a breach from happening. We have the hacker mindset. Threat actors approach the cloud much as they do with an on-prem environment with some important differences. With on-prem networks, you need to consider the security of your perimeter to prevent being breached. With perimeterless cloud environments, you need to consider the strength of your configured identities, IAM users and roles that interact with cloud APIs, and we're going to get hands-on with some of that stuff as well. Just as thinking like a defender makes red teamers better able to evade defenses and provide better advice, thinking like a hacker allows blue teamers to better anticipate potential security weaknesses. So continually assessing things, and I'm totally ignoring the chat. Let me look over at chat, say hello to all y'all. Let's check over at LinkedIn. We got Philip and David over on LinkedIn. We got Frackery, if I'm saying that right, over on Twitch. And over on YouTube, we got Kevin, Pickle. I'm totally going to mess up your name. Prazenjit Vlogs. Gustavo, Sass, and John, what is up, y'all? How long is this going to be live? I don't know. We might be on for an hour and a half to 2 hours. We will see. I did have super early morning, y'all. I was up a little bit before 6 a.m., which is early for me because I went and spoke at an event, in-person event, right away this morning to a bunch of InfoSec leaders. So that was a lot of fun, but it also means I'm more tired than normal. And is this going to be part of premium subscription? So actually, the guide that we're looking at right now is completely free. You can just go there, LinkedIn, and find it. The labs we're going to do today are going to be part of the free subscription because I want to finish those first. Then I will start showcasing some of their premium content. Automation and scripting. I'm sure many of you watching this already know this. The difference is some of the tools you might use. So tools like Terraform. You'll hear a lot about infrastructure as code when you get into cloud and cloud security because that's how you deploy different VMs in different environments. With infrastructure as code. Identity and access management, a big thing with cloud, especially AWS, Azure, GCP, whatever it is. But what is it? Well, it applies fine-grained permissions to services and resources, what we can access, and what. So IAM is a classic way to manage users in AWS and is good for smaller environments. It's also good to learn and use AWS IAM Identity Center so you can manage IAM at scale. IAM Identity Center supports key rotation, which is important, which means if a threat actor gains access to creds, they will only be valid for a short period of time, reducing the damage that can be done. And I will say in a lot of organizations, although this is available, many don't practice it. So when I do an AWS pen test, this is always a suggestion. Turn on key rotation. We have network security. So vulnerability management and network security are a key aspect of cloud security. So similar to on-prem. Misconfigurations are the same thing. Regular auditing is important. And then, of course, our defense in-depth approach. Some important AWS security services to get familiar with. And the cool thing, y'all, about Pwn Labs is they not only have red team exercises, they also have blue team and purple team exercises. So some of the exercises, you're actually on the blue team where you're using something like CloudTrail and you're tracing malicious activity and performing an investigation. So even if you're not a red teamer, the blue team side of Pwn Labs is also really helpful. Data security. We already talked about this a little bit, but as a cloud security engineer, we will need to ensure that sensitive data is encrypted in transit and also at rest. Remember, data is always a responsibility of us, not the responsibility of AWS or Azure or GCP. Customer data is your responsibility as a cloud engineer or as an organization. So it talks about key management. You don't want to store clear text credentials in scripts, just like you don't want to do an on-prem environment, but you'd be surprised how often we find things like this. Storage services such as buckets are a common way that threat actors gain sensitive data, and I think we'll be doing a hands-on lab with this in Azure Blob Storage today once we're done going through this. If the data includes creds such as keys, tokens, or passwords, this could result in threat actors getting a foothold in your environment. Logging and monitoring. Being able to hear a pin drop and understand when abnormal behavior is occurring in your environment is crucial, right? Proactive. You don't just want to investigate after your network got pwned. You want to be a little more proactive as you're working your way through stuff. Can you please share the link for this file? Absolutely, I'll share it. Here, let me grab it right here. Let me grab it over here. Hold up. I'll find it for y'all and I'll drop it in the chat. I realize I downloaded it. It's on their LinkedIn page, though, but I'll grab the direct link and drop it over in chat real quick. Oh, don't do that, Callie. Let's see. Posts. Here it is. All right, I'm going to drop this in chat. Oh, it didn't drop the link. That's silly. Okay, let's try this again. It's trying to drop just the... It's trying to drop the title. Does that work if you click it? No, it doesn't. It won't let me drop the link, y'all. Let me try it this way. There. I don't know if YouTube's letting me drop the link. I apologize. If you go to, I'll drop it over on Twitch. If you go to the pwnlabs.io and it's /roadmaps, right? So if you just go here, pwnlabs.io roadmaps, right here, cloud security engineer, right? I think if I just go to roadmaps, so we have to do cloud security engineer. So pwnlabs.io roadmaps, cloud security engineer, and you'll be able to get it. Okay, you guys got it. All right, sweet. Let's jump right back into this. Let me get chat pulled back up. So logging and monitoring, here's an example from CloudTrail. And like I said before, they actually have exercises where you're able to do this and trace an attack that happened. Splunk, I've actually done both Splunk and Elk challenges on my channel. So if you want to get hands-on with that, if you go back through my channel, I did some training as well as challenges from Try Hack Me with both of those platforms. And incident response, right? Quickly and effectively responding to security incidents will reduce the amount of damage caused by threat actors. In the cloud, which has very well-defined APIs and offensive tooling created for it, potential intrusions can result in exfiltration of company secrets and destruction of infrastructure in even short windows of opportunity. As defenders, it's super important to find incident response playbooks and automation and be able to respond and contain the threat as quickly as events unfold. So some standard incident response steps here from NIST, but applying it to the cloud. So starting points, we're almost through this guide. I would encourage you to slow down on your own, but want to give you a high level overview. So targeting a career in cloud security is the ultimate goal, and we each have different backgrounds as we start on this journey. In this section, we provide individual advice for common starting points on how you can leverage your existing skills to get hired in a cloud security engineering role. So starting as a cloud engineer, your skills in cloud engineering will be very useful in cloud security. Automation and scripting are valuable for implementing security automation. Networking knowledge, this is going to be the easiest way, I think, to break into a security engineer role. If you're a cloud engineer and you want to break into security, it's really just putting on the security hat and looking at how a threat actor would do this. And once again, polnabs.io is one of the best places. So what are our summaries? Well, gain a hacker mindset, exactly what I was just talking about. Think about how things might be attacked and exploited will allow you to implement mitigations and defenses. And I do this in every situation I'm in. How can a hacker exploit this? Because I get paid to hack stuff. So we need to develop that hacker mindset. Another name for this, y'all, is just curiosity. Being curious about how does this work? What happens if I do this? Will this break anything? Having that curiosity will take you far in this field. And learn about specific cloud security tools used by defenders and threat actors beyond basic cloud management, which, hey, if you watch my videos, you're going to learn that because we're going to work through it together. Starting as a security engineer. So we already know security, how to defend on-prem environments. Along with cloud engineers, you may have an easier transition to become a cloud security engineer. It's learning the cloud stuff. Security concepts that apply to on-prem environments apply just as well to cloud environments with some differences. And I would say the same is true about pen testing. If you already know how to pen test on-prem environments, you have to learn a little more for cloud, but a lot of it does transfer over. So cloud is perimeterless, which we already talked about, and Cloud API uses Cloud APIs to interact with your resources are accessible from anywhere in the world. If you're familiar with writing on-prem file shares for credentials and then performing a DC sync attack, which oddly enough, did that on one of my last internals, you should know that storage buckets in the cloud often allow for lateral and vertical movement as well. A purple team approach of build, break, and fix will allow you to quickly adapt to the cloud. You'll be able to bootstrap your skills much faster by playing your offensive and defensive skill sets off each other, right? Challenge yourself by building in the cloud using infrastructure as code. You will be able to provide better security advice to DevOps and cloud engineers. So how about starting as a sysadmin? Well, depending on your experience, you may already have some security knowledge, which sysadmins usually do, especially if you work for smaller companies that often don't have dedicated security personnel. You're also familiar with the security mistakes of end users, absolutely, and have good ideas about designing secure systems. Many people have the assumption that they can just lift and shift existing on-prem workloads, processes, and data to the cloud where it will be secure by default. No. In reality, the default settings are often insecure and support weaker security settings for backwards compatibility, especially true about AWS in my experience. Less true about Azure. Azure's a lot more secure out of the box, at least from my experience. As a sysadmin, you know many of the security mistakes that are made in on-prem enterprise environments, and many of these also translate to the cloud. You have an advantage as a skill builder, and we eat documentation for breakfast. Building in the cloud should be no problem for you, given the really good public documentation, right? RTFM. You may be experienced with VMware and local storage solutions, so you'll need to learn how to deploy infrastructure in the cloud as code using Terraform, Ansible, or CloudFormation. Once you're familiar with building in the cloud, you need to develop your security knowledge by reading, watching, researching, watching Tyler on YouTube, and creating vulnerable scenarios on your own, as well as using labs and CTFs from training providers. Starting as a software dev. Traditionally, security has been an afterthought in SDLC, with security controls added at the end. And honestly, as a software developer, you would have a strong idea of how those vulnerabilities are introduced. And here's the big think around, and actually TryHackMe has a series of rooms that covers this as well. We need to fix issues in design and develop. Instead, like what traditionally happens is apps get designed, they get developed, and then maybe in testing, they'll hire a pen test here, but then someone like me comes on and says, hey, you have all of these issues, and then you have a lot of technical debt now, because now you have to go back and fix all these issues, maybe it breaks something, whereas if you do it at each step of the process, it's a lot secure. Starting with no or little IT background. I want to spend the most time on here Because I know, at least based on talking to people, many of you are in this category. You're trying to break into the industry. You don't have a cloud background or pen testing background, and you're at that dilemma where it's like, hey, experience required. I don't have experience. How do I get that? So with practice and perseverance, and I just want to say this is a lot easier said than done. Persistence is key to IT. A lot of people get excited about IT or excited for studying for the next certification, but that excitement wears off after a week or maybe 4 weeks, and they're no longer doing it because it's not as exciting as it looks when you're grinding it out and studying for exams. But if you want to succeed in this field, you need persistence. You need the ability to keep pushing forward even when you don't feel like it. But it's possible to go from any background of cloud security, whether in IT or not. 3 years ago, I was a pastor. Now I'm a pen tester, and I also do cloud pen testing. It is possible. For example, as a physics teacher, you may be very technical and analytically minded, and these qualities will be a superpower in your cloud security journey. Although it is possible to train for a cloud security role without prior IT, cloud, or security experience, cloud security is not really an entry-level profession, meaning that there are foundations that you and I will need to learn first. So what should we do? Get familiar with Linux, set up and play with it, and work through over-the-wire wargame to get practice with Linux shell commands. Personally, I have never done over-the-wire. I've heard good things about it, but from my own experience, TryHackMe has an incredible beginner cybersecurity path that will also teach you the fundamentals of using Linux and the fundamentals of security. Pass the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. Learn AWS with no prior IT or cloud experience. Good idea. I did the Azure one, so I have the AZ900, but I've actually gone through the training for this. I just never actually sat for the exam. And then get real experience with cloud security. Get hands-on with beginner-friendly cloud security labs that provide real-world experience. PwnLabs.io is awesome, and I will showcase it. So here's our summary. This roadmap is not prescriptive, but it is a foundation and a guideline for our own roadmap into cloud security. Cloud security is an exciting and fast-growing area with many job opportunities. With desire and determination, nothing is impossible. If you have a good understanding of Linux, have experience with deploying workloads in the cloud, are able to use infrastructure as code, and have hands-on experience with the real-world cloud security scenarios, you'll be in a great position to land a cloud security engineer role. PwnLabs Academy is the place to get real-world experience. I agree, and we will dive into that together. And look at this, exclusive offer on the Cloud Career Journeys book. There you go, 15% off PwnLabs Pro as well. Fun stuff. Shout out to Ian. Once again, had the opportunity to meet with him. We chatted for about 30 minutes a day. Really cool conversation, really genuine person, and super excited about everything they are doing over at PwnLabs.io. Now, a little bit weird for those of you on stream, I'm not actually signing off, but this is the end of a YouTube video. We'll start a new one. So those of you watching after the fact on YouTube, hope you learned a lot about getting into cloud. And once again, I'll post a link to this in the YouTube video for this full document. Would encourage you to use this as a template or a baseline and begin creating your own cloud journey as you work on breaking into cloud pen testing.